tapeworms are a type of cestode. They are in the phylum Platyhelminthes, but you remember that they are very specialized endoparasites. And so when we look at their anatomy is extremely strange. And it might appear at first glance that they are segmented worms because of their structure, but they are not truly segmented. So I'm going to put that down because that'll be important when we get to the truly segmented worms. So I'm going to say that these are not truly segmented. Okay. So remember that one of their specialized adaptations is that they have lost their digestive tract. So that means they have no mouth as an adult. And so instead of a mouth, they have a structure which is called a scolex. So I'm going to draw a picture of the scolex. Scolexes are kind of strange in that they tend to look kind of like heads and mouths because they have these, this is kind of a silly picture. But anyway, this is the Scolex. And this is my organ of attachment. And those are not eyes, they are suckers. Okay, so this is what it uses so that when you like get rid of your waste and stuff moves through your digestive tract, this is what prevents it from exiting, right? So this is a strange organism because it produces these structures asexually, it buds them off, and these are called proglottids, and they are actually called segments, but they're produced asexual budding, proglottids. So they are produced by asexual budding. And what these proglottids are essentially simply egg manufacturing plants, right? So they're just factories of producing eggs. And as we move down the tapeworm, the proglottids get bigger and they might become mature, meaning that they have ovaries and testes. So this is a mature proglottid. So that they have an ovary and testis. So this organism, like many organisms, actually is a hermaphrodite, meaning that it produces both egg and sperm. It is hermaphroditic. So it can actually fertilize its own eggs, and so that would be called self-fertilization is possible. Generally, what's kind of interesting about this is that the sperm from one proglottid exits that proglottid and then travels to a receptacle on another proglottid. This is all the same organism, it's just a colony of cloned segments, right? And it fertilizes that. So we have self-fertilization, or imagine if you had two tapeworms in one host, two adult tapeworms in one host. You could have what is referred to as not self-fertilization, but cross-fertilization. That would produce more variable offspring. So that might actually happen sometimes. So tapeworms can get very long, they could be feet long, and at the very end, we have these packets of eggs, and these are called gravid, with two eyes, weirdly. I'm not sure why they call that. That's a V, gravid proglottid, proglottids. And these are packages of eggs. The eggs actually have a shell on them, which makes them very resistant to drying out. You might see these gravid proglottids coming out of your animal's body. They might actually kind of cling to the anus of your cat or dog, for example, and you might see them move. They actually kind of look like grains of rice, about that size, and they actually have muscles and they kind of wiggle around weirdly. And then they drop off into the soil. So one place to look up all kinds of interesting information, I really like Wikipedia. And so I know some teachers do not like Wikipedia, but for biology, it is pretty awesome. And people spend a lot of time, there's a lot of people that love biology. They spend a lot of time editing this and checking them. And so there's all kinds of information about this. Here's an example. This is a light microscope slide right here. I can't point to it, but this is a light microscope slide of a Scolex. These are the proglottids. They have a uterus, even. That's where the eggs develop. They also have an ovary and a testes. And then the CDC has some important information about tapeworms, so that you could look these up. You could look at the life cycle of a fish tapeworm versus, say, for example, a beef or a pork tapeworm. And then there's also some very interesting information about the tapeworms of cats and dogs. And so that is really interesting because they have an unusual secondary host. So for example, a cat, the most common tapeworm, it's not a mouse, it's not a bird, it is something else. So you could look that up on the CDC website to find out more information.